How do you know I'm real?
Yes.
I'm not real. I'm just like you. You don't exist. You're not real. So we're both myths. I do not come to you as a reality. I come to you as the myth. I came from a dream. I'm actually a present sent to you by your ancestors. They take frequent trips to the moon. I notice none of you have been invited. How do you think you're going to exist? You don't exist. You're not real. 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 I'm not real. I'm just like you.
タクシーエピソード6 Space is a mess.
He was 170 days dying and not yet dead. He fought for survival with the passion of a beast in a trap. He was delirious and rotting, but occasionally his primitive mind emerged from the burning nightmare of survival into something resembling sanity. Then he lifted his mute face to eternity and muttered, "What's the matter, me? Help you got it, God. Help is all." Blasphemy came easily to him. It was half his speech all his life. He had been raised in the gutter school of the 25th century and spoke nothing but the gutter tongue. Of all brutes in the world, he was among the least valuable alive and most likely to survive. So he struggled and prayed in blasphemy, but occasionally his reveling mind leaped backward 30 years to his childhood and remembered the nursery jingle.
This is my dwelling place, and is my destination.
Welcome to Beat Taxi 6. On this episode, we'll explore the mess that we call space. And when I say space, I don't mean time, and I don't mean to disrespect time. I mean, we'll talk about that another, time. So, let's get started. I'm reading here, outer space. Okay, so people also call it space. So here, because I was thinking there's like inner space, outer space, okay. So whatever, anyway, that's the expanse that exists beyond the Earth and between the celestial bodies. That's pretty spooky, I guess. Outer space is not completely empty. It's a hard vacuum containing a low density of particles, predominantly a plasma of hydrogen and helium, as well as electromagnetic radiation. So wait. let's hold on right there. Hydrogen. Hydrogen is the chemical element with the symbol H. Okay, so that's like the letter of the alphabet H in atomic number 1. All right. So what is hydrogen? It's this is difficult. It's tasteless, colorless, odorless, non-toxic, non-metallic, highly combustible. Oh, okay, so that's basically fire. Okay, so that's fire. And the other one, damn, I'm already lost. Well, let's see, hydrogen, yep. Oh, okay. Let me check this one. So we had hydrogen and helium. So helium, it's some sort of death ray with the symbol HE, or maybe you say he, I don't know, like not she, so it's a man, some sort of dude. Atomic number 2, okay, well. So it's also colorless, it's also odorless, it's also tasteless, non-toxic, inert, it doesn't move. Monatomic gas, I like that, it's a monatomic gas. It's the first in a noble gas group. That's a noble gas. Okay, so it's some dude that's a noble gas, but completely tasteless. So also, I read here, helium is the second lightest and second most, well, I don't know, something. Well, it's the lightest, so it's some sort of dude that's pretty light, odorless, colorless, dude does nothing. Okay, moving on. What's the weather like in space? The baseline temperature of outer space is set by the background radiation from the Big Bang. Okay, it's minus 270 degrees. It's pretty cold. It's like, yeah, deep freeze type of temperature. The plasma between galaxies accounts for about half of the baryonic. I have no idea what that is. Baryonic is like one of those big guitars, like the half a bass, half a guitar. It's a type of composite subatomic. Fuck, this is really complicated. It contains an odd number of valence quarks. This is super difficult. Valence quarks. Baryons belong to the hadron family of particles, which are the quark-based. Okay, this is too difficult. All right, dark matter. So studies indicate that 90% of the mass in most galaxies in an unknown form called the dark matter, which interacts with other matter. So wait, okay, let's check this dark matter thing. I like the dark matter. It's a form of matter thought to account for approximately 85% of the matter in the universe. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so space is dark matter, basically. About a quarter of its total mass energy density. Oh, right. Its presence is implied in a variety of astrophysical observations, including gravitational effects that cannot be explained. Okay, so when, like, something is spinning around, okay, that's space. Let's check and ask my good friend Professor Fesse. Professor, let's see.
What exactly is space?
Right.
Nothing.
Could you just like elaborate on that? Because
The rest is only space.
Sure.
But space?
Nothing.
But space?
Nothing.
But space?
Okay, so I got one more thing here we gotta check out. Is the dark fluid, because you shouldn't confuse dark matter with dark fluid. It's something else entirely. It's like
Nothing.
You know, sometimes you're thirsty.
So,
And dark matter is just like if you just have some dark matter, you're gonna like choke and stuff. Well, dark fluid is, you pour yourself the glass of dark fluid. I think it comes in cans as well. And, yeah.
Why is space big?
There you go.
Why
is space so big? Is a big question, apparently.
Big? Why is space big?
Okay.
Why is space big?
Yeah. So a simple dark fluid with negative mass has been shown to have the properties required to explain
Nothing.
both dark matter and dark energies. This is the plot thickens.
Nothing.
I mean, I'm completely lost.
So, how do you make sense of something?
Why is space
Like nothing? Why is space...
Well, in the meantime, let's just move on and get some
Space
stuff.
is the dirtiest place. Space is the dirtiest place in the universe. Space is the dirtiest place. Space is the dirtiest place, I repeat again, in case you didn't know. And here's some high on acid super freaks for you.
exactly is space? But space...
Every location is real. The facts that will be presented are true.
Space is actually everywhere. 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 Space is actually everywhere.
All right, so pretty confusing stuff, space. So better stay away from it, otherwise you might get some dark fluid in your lungs. All right, moving on. We're gonna have another musical interlude with some sounds. So what happens if you get lost in space or like sucked into space? I'm reading here, NASA requires spacewalking astronauts to use tethers and sometimes additional anchors. But should those fail, you'd float off according to whatever forces were acting on you when you broke loose. For example, if you had alcohol, well then they will make you float. In space, no kicking and flailing can change your fate. That's pretty grim. The most immediate threat in the cosmic vacuum is oxygen deprivation. Assuming that you don't hold your breath during decompression, you can hold your breath like for, 10 hours. It will take about 15 seconds for your O2 deprived blood to get to your brain. Yeah, I know that. Simple loss of oxygen will likely kill you faster than anything else in the vacuum of space. Well, that's heartwarming. Now, more stuff. Is anyone lost in space? There have been quite a few fatalities, but generally they don't actually take place in space. Okay, so yeah, we're safe. How many dead bodies are in space? As of 2020, there have been 15 astronauts and 4 cosmonaut fatalities. Wait. Okay, so astronauts, cosmonauts versus cosmonauts. What's the deal here? Because I hear both. I never know. Oh, some pretty funky looking people. Look like that guy in Future World or Robot World, I forgot. So, cosmonauts are people trained and certified by the Russian Space Agency. Astronauts are people trained and certified by NASA and a bunch of other JAXA, ESA, XA. So while the two terms may seem functionally equivalent, they slightly differ because of the different operational philosophies of the different space agencies. Okay, but ultimately the separation between the two terms is one of respect. There we go again with that shit. Alright, let's move on. Let's listen to something cool called Vehro. Right, so I'm checking other questions here. How far can we travel in space? Well, it depends what kind of car you have. The answer depends on who we is. If we means human beings, then at the moment we can't go beyond low Earth orbit. So basically about 20 minutes above the surface of the Earth, with some sort of sedan, or Jeep, maybe. So, yeah. Next question, that's a good one. What is needed for space travel? NASA scientists know that for humans to travel through space, astronauts have basic needs. Astronauts must have oxygen, food, water, and rest. These needs are usually simple to meet on Earth. Well, I don't know. Don't know about that one. To meet these needs in space is very complicated. Yeah, you bet. The gases in space cannot support human life. Well, there you go. If the gases are, not the right ones, not noble gases, for example, I would say, well, let me answer that one. What is needed for space travel? I would say maybe a bag, a shovel, some sort of knife, or maybe a handsaw, a hatchet of some kind, matches. Yeah, because you got to be careful. Although the whole space thing is basically fire, so maybe no matches. Maybe just a lighter in case you really in dire situations where you're fighting off aliens and the likes. You can always do that hairspray trick, set it on fire, do like the DIY flamethrower, last minute type of thing. And maybe I would say some food, a bottle of whiskey, maybe, I don't know, wine, yeah, like 2-3 bottles of wine tops, red wine, maybe something, but not too old, not too strong, maybe 12.5 degrees alcohol, some You can still like wash your hands with it if you need, or like disinfect wounds and that sort of things. So yeah. Moving on. Do people age in space? So depending on our position and speed, time can appear to move faster or slower to us relative to others in a different part of space-time. And for astronauts on the International Space Station, that means they get to age just a tiny bit slower than people on Earth. That's because they drink white wine. And also time dilation effects. So, yeah. For example, Mr. There's no name. He doesn't have a name. Never mind. Right. So, I got a question here. Can you eat pizza in space? Pizza have not been perfected yet. Beyond that, astronauts can eat anything you might order from a typical menu. Cleanup is no fun even in space. Plates and wrappers are disposable. Well, that's not very, what do you say, eco-friendly. So yeah, it all depends. I mean, the kind of pizza. Myself, I could go for some mega meat type of deal, or something with mushrooms. Yeah, space mushrooms. There you go, space meat. Mega meat. So yeah, maybe some Coca-Cola with onion rings. I don't know. So now the big question: you've eaten your pizza. You made a mess. You maybe spilled something. Your red wine, spilt it. Your space suit is messed up. You get stains all over. Not presentable. You start smelling like a bomb. You get all that space sweat in your armpits. You get that space crotch thing going. So how do astronauts shower? And I say astronauts, I think that applies both to astronauts and cosmonauts. I mean, I'm no experts on that. We could ask Professor Fesse, but I think he's left the building. So on the space shuttle and on the International Space Station, astronauts went back to the old-fashioned way of bathing in space. So they do not shower, but rather they use liquid soap. And I don't think that has anything to do with dark liquid thing. So they use water and rinseless shampoo. They squeeze liquid soap and water from pouches onto their skin. That's so sexy. Yeah. Now, I reckon that if you have to go to space, I mean, I think I probably wouldn't shower. I would just, I think it's okay to just open the window, like get naked, open the window, and maybe like for a fraction of a second sort of step outside just for the space air. Clean up all the gunk, all the sweat, all the, especially, I mean, you might want to go a bit longer than half a second, maybe on the crotch. I mean, just it's difficult, but I was talking about tethers, right? So you get your tethers secured, you step out for a minute, maybe turn off the engine because you don't want to go too fast for that. It's like insects and stuff. I mean, space insects. So yeah. Now, since we're talking about that, I get a pretty good questions here. How do astronauts poop? So the seated space toilet, meant for pooping, has a fan connected to it that creates the suction. Man, this is super fucking sexy. Waste ends up in a plastic bag that astronauts push down into a solid waste container, which is changed roughly every 10 days, which in space year is like every 10 months. So, and the urine gets recycled. They don't say what into though. Maybe that's fuel for the rocket ships and stuff. So yeah, there you go. That you get sorted out. So yeah, even if you don't have that much space on your spaceship, your rocket ship, all you need is urine, really. So you bring the wine, maybe a couple chocolate bars, some Snickers, Mars. Mars is good, yeah. I don't think there's any chocolate bars named Space bars or Space chocolate. So anyway, you bring all that, you get some pretty good wine urine thing going. Because I think wine urine is a lot better for fuel. Makes for much better fuel. So you do that, yeah. And you pretty much shut it down, yeah. Now, okay, last question. We're on to the practical aspects of space. Do astronauts eat toothpaste? That's a really good question. The toothpaste astronauts use can be swallowed after brushing. Therefore, it's called edible toothpaste. And the mouth is then cleaned with a wet wipe. The astronauts have to brush with their mouth as closed as possible to prevent the toothpaste floating out. And then, yeah, it's going to get on the computer screens, all the kind of tiny windows they have, and so on. So, yeah, maybe you don't need toothpaste, really. You can just, like, rinse off with some wine. That should be about right, I reckon. Okay, final questions, and then I think we'll listen to something. Do astronauts eat their own poop? No, that's a good question, because then you'll go full cycle. I mean, you recycle urine for fuel, you eat your own poo. I mean, yeah, okay. Astronauts on deep space missions could recycle their own feces to make food. Researchers built this cylindrical piece of equipment to help transform poo into edible microbes. It's a long way to Mars, and astronauts will need to eat. But currently, though, the International Space Station poop is discharged to go burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Well, that explains the smell. I mean, every time I open the window, there's this crisp whiff, like, So, yeah, all right, let's listen to something. So, space madness, that's a pretty important topic. When astronauts first began flying in space, NASA worried about space madness, a mental malady they thought might arise from humans experiencing microgravity and claustrophobic isolation inside of a cramped spacecraft high above the Earth. Such fears have since faded, but humanity continues to see spaceflight as having the power to transform people for either better or for worse. Yeah, I think that's a lot of propaganda, because space madness, I mean, I've seen people, do things in small spaces. I mean, I used to, I once lived in a closet-sized apartment, about the size you need to avoid complete mental breakdown, but not nearly spacious enough not to feel at least once a day the urge to just wreck everything and tear down the walls. So being spatially challenged, I decided to jettison most of my belongings, all my stuff really, and start fresh with items that were more suited for the cramped life, the home life, So I slept sitting on a stool with my head face down on another stool, a slightly taller one, so as to make a kind of a makeshift table of sorts. I ate rations, which came out directly from my pockets, chocolate bars mostly, oatmeal bars, cheese sticks, beef jerky. Buffalo jerky also. That's a good space food, buffalo jerky. So and after a while, I mean, I didn't shower. We mentioned the whole hygiene situation, how it is. Well, and there I was. Now, I read here that the U.S. astronauts and Russian cosmonauts mostly maintained their cool. Me, I think I didn't. I once snapped at a neighbor. I spat on his door. He really deserved it, but he wasn't, I think, very good with space. Although, I was all right, I think. So, there's lots of stories of space travelers going insane or experiencing some sort of metamorphosis, but they say here on the NASA, but that's propaganda again. There are no examples of what we might consider freakouts or psychotic breaks in any space missions. But there you go, this is the big but there have been arguments, disagreements, and occasional shouting. Now, I don't know if you probably never experienced that, but shouting in space. I mean, they said it with the first Alien movie, no one will hear you, right? So I believe that. You shout in space, no one will hear you, so you will shout and shout and shout until your mouth sort of falls off, your jaws will break, will dislocate. So yeah, that's they say here that astronauts displayed a business-like attitude and stoicism in the face of danger that has proven popular with the American public. Well, there you go. Neil Armstrong, not to be confused with the trumpeter, the first human to moonwalk, showed such calm when he was ejected from a jet-powered lunar landing simulator less than a second before it crashed to the ground. He surprised even his colleagues when he returned to work quietly at his desk barely an hour after the incident. Of course, he had shat his pants. Well, there you go. That's space pop culture for you. So back to my story about living in that apartment. So there was water, but it was liquid. It was liquid water. I had, for entertainment, didn't have that much. Pretty much, I had a deck of cards, but I think in space they would probably just float around. You can't play anything. Maybe dice. Yeah, dice. But no dice. That won't work. You gotta get one of those newer spaceships, the one with where you can sit down and be all right. Without the gravity thing, I think. Otherwise, no card games, no dice. For example, you want to play liar's dice? Forget it. I mean, you can't get anything. Not a game. Not a one. Done. And I pretty much went crazy, though. I can tell you that. Spaghetti, that's what I miss the most, because spaghetti in the space, I think that's illegal. I think that, and I'm talking meat sauce spaghetti, the really red kind, right, with all the tomato sauce and maybe some spices as well. I mean, can you imagine? You get all that, and then you gotta go in your space suit because there's no alternative. Man, it takes a lot of time. Let's see, let's check how far to what's a good planet? How far to Uranus? There you go. That's topical. All right, I can't even read. Give or take 3 billion kilometers. 3 billion kilometers. Okay. So how long will it take to get there? So in August 1977, that was a hot summer, NASA flew by the planet on its way out of the solar system. It encountered all 4 gas giants. No mention of nobility here or anything. Maybe there were noble gases, who knows. So, and they made their approach to Uranus on January 24th, 1986. So, means it took just about a decade to get there. A decade. I mean, yeah, okay. Anyway, on Uranus, I mean, there's not much, right? It's probably fascinating, but it's really cold, I think, on Uranus. It's minus 300 something, yeah. Also, it has faint rings, what's called 13 faint rings and 27 small moons. I mean, it means that Uranus appears to spin on its side. So that's like kind of like a bowling ball, I guess, or bass guitar strings, sort of an elliptic thing. Now, one question I always ask myself is, does it rain diamonds on Uranus? Because I read here, high-pressure experiments suggest large amounts of diamonds are formed from methane on the ice giants, planets Uranus and Neptune. Don't care about Neptune, though. While some planets in other solar system may be almost pure diamond. That's cool. You get there, you just, you get home, you scrape off your shoes, boom, you go to the bank, you're strapped. So diamonds are also found in stars, and they may have been the very first mineral ever to have formed. So extraterrestrial diamonds, that's what that's the future. I mean, people are talking about bitcoins, yeah. I think that diamonds on Earth are rare, but the extraterrestrial diamonds are very common. They're not much larger than molecules, so you got diamond molecules. You can snort them. It's like cocaine, I think. They're formed from methane, so this is even better. What you need is you bring out a few cows with you in space. Just feed them, not spaghetti because that's illegal. Not Mars bars because I think maybe space grass. Space grass is good for cows, for space cows. Then you let them work, chew and so on. Boom, methane, and there you go. You wait, maybe 5 days, 10 days, and you get some diamonds. Just gotta get cool enough. But like I said, 300 degrees, minus 300 degrees. That's gotta be cold enough, I reckon. So yeah. So while we're on the subject of extraterrestrial diamonds, I'd like to play something, the little soundtrack thing, and I'll get back onto something else after that. Space debris is what I wanted to talk to you about. People call it also space junk, space trash, space garbage, but basically it's all your defunct human-made objects in space, especially around the Earth. You got your broken spacecraft, abandoned launch vehicle stuff, mission-related debris, fragmentation debris. You get your broken satellites, bits of, like nuts and bolts, paint. We mentioned excrement earlier. That's another thing. Sometimes I'm pretty sure, it's cold in space, so there you go. Doesn't always burn out. Footballs, plastic bottles, all those things, they're quite, you see them everywhere. Weapons, a lot of Civil War rifles, landmines, space mines. You often have, swords. Not the laser kind, just the regular sword, like rusty swords. Wrappers, all the chocolate bar wrappers. What happens is that the wrappers turn into not diamonds. They turn into balls of metal. I don't know how it works, how that works. I don't know the science. I'm just saying. And then they are as hard as imagine like a leaf, like a tree leaf made of metal, very brittle. Yeah, you take that in your windshield, you're goodbye. Space gloves, toothbrushes, cameras, digital cameras, pliers, and a briefcase-sized tool bag. Yeah, those are the things that you can expect to run into in the space. So let's wrap it up. Let's maybe listen to something else. So yeah, thinking about that space debris thing, basically just don't toss anything out the window while in space. Think of other space people, astronauts, cosmonauts, whatever. I mean, we're all people in space. So we're gonna have one last song, and then goodbye. Maybe after that. Okay, so thanks for listening in. I hope you've learned a lot about space and listened to some cool sounds along. I'll see you on the next show. Bye.